Welcome to the PDX files. Each week we dive into the weird and the unexplained here in the Pacific Northwest and beyond. My name is Peej.
And I am Mac.
And Mac, what are we talking about today?
Well, today we're going to get into a little bit about the different types of UFOs you might see, or UAPs, however you want to really go with it. You might see in the skies that have been the most seen over the course of history.
Right on. Well, for this time around, it's back to me not having seen the video beforehand, so my responses and my reactions will be authentic. Here you go.
The classic UFOs are by now well known. The crashed and littered debris of Roswell, the shining blinding lights of the Hill abduction, the weaponized rotating discs of countless science fiction movies. These ever mysterious objects are burned into our collective consciousness. In more recent times, though, there has been a major shift turning UFOs from a one-time kooky pseudoscience into a legitimately recognized official line of inquiry, particularly since the preliminary assessment UAP report released by the U.S. government in June 2021, the conversation has taken a new shape. So now it pays to know exactly what you might, maybe even will, one day encounter. The classic flying saucer may be lesser seen these days, but the more general floating orb is still everywhere. As in all across the world map, there have been sightings made, and science still isn't wholly sure what they are. Floating or sometimes darting orbs usually appear across remote and rural landscapes, where there's generally less artificial light from the ground. Sometimes they are single entities, but more often they come in clusters, groups of suspended lights that even appear to move in formation in some cases. They're particularly widely reported across Australia, some parts of South America, and across the plains of North America, as they've before been linked to distracting drivers into accidents or leading people into getting lost. The orbs often have a reputation in local folklore for being harbingers of doom. In some places, they're also known as will-o'-the-wisps or ghost lights. There have been reported sightings in Antarctica, too, the remotest place on Earth. However, the most famous example probably comes from the Earth's other extreme, the Arctic Circle. In Norway and across Scandinavia, the lights of Hesgallen, an occasional rush of glowing orb-like lights in the sky, are famous and have been seen many times over.
I mean, that's pretty compelling information right there. It's not just like now, it's like been around for a long time, right?
Yeah. I mean, in orbs in the sky, I respect that the narrator, which I think is also AI, uh,
Yeah.
stated something like, it's kind of more common now. And I think because there are so many things that are man-made that are being launched into the air, whether they're drones or obviously uh, aircraft and whatnot, but you can't dismiss when the lights are like, you know, behaving in different ways than what we're used to seeing up there, right?
Yeah, it even kinda goes back to the kind of the Foo Fighters kinda thing
Yeah,
where they had, the orbs like that. They didn't have drones like that back in those
yeah,
days. They didn't have
yeah,
that kind of technology, and, the Will-O'-the-Wisp kind of reference, it's, like, really interesting. It's like, these kind of things have been around for a long time in one shape or form or another, and, can we explain it, through science? No. I mean, that's kind of the bottom line. We really don't know kind of what causes some of these things. Even like St. Elmo's fire and ball lightning. All these things are kind of like, what the heck is going on here? Can we? Yeah, we can explain a little bit of it, but it's very interesting. I think this one is a type of UFO. Like if I saw some shit in the sky, I would automatically assume drone. But
yeah.
if it
Uh,
behaved in a certain way, right? You don't know. It's like, okay, what the fuck is going on here? And this doesn't seem like anything that human can possibly control, especially if it's out in the middle of fucking nowhere. Like you're not going to have like shit like that happen.
yeah,
Um,
and that's a good point right there. I mean, if I were in the middle of nowhere, like you just said, I'd be more apt to pay attention to it. And but the reality is, especially living in the city, if I'm seeing lights in the sky, I'm more, inclined to ignore them because I'm thinking to myself, that's airplane, that's
yeah,
satellite, that's all these other man-made things that are already up in the sky. So I know we're going to talk about other shapes here, but to me, that's kind of like the one that I fear that a lot of people would
Kind of
easily
overlook.
dismiss.
Yeah. Yep. I totally agree. Yep.
All right, moving on here.
Next, and another shape regularly and bizarrely witnessed in the sky above, is the pyramid. Triangular or pyramidal UFOs are again seen all over the world, while some of the most infamous
Mm.
examples come from within the U.S. military. For instance, in April 2021, just a couple of months before the
The
release
fuck
of the
is
UAP
that?
report, the Pentagon reportedly confirmed that a clip recently published by ufologist Jeremy Corbell and journalist George Knapp, showing a hazy greenish triangle racing across the sky, was the real deal. The clip had been originally captured, though, by members of the U.S. Navy, who also were unable to provide
Mm.
an explanation. More broadly, there's the black triangle UFO category,
Hmm.
referring to the
Hmm.
countless UFO claims that involve a dark triangle or triangles hanging in the sky and usually with pulsating lights. In history, the Phoenix Light incident in 1997 is one of the most well-known black triangle cases. There have been others,
That's not
though,
the, yeah.
including
Mm.
a series of black triangle sightings reported in Belgium between late 1989 and
Yep.
mid-1990. Plus, the so-called Dudley Dorito, another triangular UFO spotted multiple times, this time in the UK,
The
between the years
deadly Dorito.
2007 and 2010. Of all UFO types, the triangular ones are perhaps those where it's most often suggested that they could be military aircraft, unknown but Earth-made flying machines, although there remain many cases where that explanation still doesn't fully hold up. But from triangles and pyramids to squares and cubes, and real
Sorry, I should have
No,
stopped.
no, no. I think that the triangle one is another one of those that, yeah, you know, certainly could have some of those things could have been attributed to military
Yeah,
operations, but so many of them happened even before then. And even if you look at some photos, or not photos, but some paintings that show those types of shapes that are in the sky, I don't know about that. I don't think you can sort of discount it. And that wave in Belgium, that was taken pretty goddamn seriously, and even to this day, the Belgian military is pretty certain that there were some things that were going on there that they couldn't explain. So, yeah, I've never heard about much of the pyramid shaped ones, but certainly the triangular shape are very, very common even to this day.
and again, depending on where you live, and what else is kind of up in the sky. I know I'll definitely be more apt to think that it's a military aircraft at this point. Again, unless it displays behavior that cannot be explained, such as what is it, like propulsion without. Was it one of those, like there were like seven things?
It's like the five observables. I think is kind of
Yeah,
what
so part of those observe
Elizondo's come up with. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
So interesting. But this one right here, it's the next one here. I've definitely not heard of. I'll go play now.
yeah. So the Borg.
cube-shaped UFOs are always prominent, despite the seemingly non-aerodynamic nature of most cube designs. Often, sightings involve witnessing small, squarish shapes zipping across the sky. Although, again, with the advent of drones and CubeSats, these are sometimes linked back to regular terrestrial technology seen out of context. However,
Hmm.
one of the more unusual cube cases occurred in and around Kansas City, Missouri in 2011. In October of that year, there were reportedly multiple sightings over just a few hours of a giant cube passing through the area.
Hmm.
It's claimed that it brought with it a low, all-consuming hum, and that because of its size, it cast everything beneath it into darkness. According to descriptions, it seemed metallic and shiny, although the sightings did come at night. There were no ill effects from the Missouri encounters, though, and the apparent UFO was seemingly content to just observe Earth rather than engage with it. But what's perhaps
Hmm.
especially strange is that another cube-shaped UFO was then reported, again in Missouri, this time in Springfield, almost exactly 10 years later, in October 2021. On this occasion,
Oh
a
shit.
passerby captured footage of a rotating cube in daylight, although it's positioned much farther away from the ground than the 2011 cube is said to have approached.
Hmm.
Hmm. You know that one. I don't know. I mean, it could be. Again, what did they say that there was a certain like a type of satellite that
So
was
sat cubes.
sat cubes. I've never even heard of that before this video, to be honest with you. So that's kind of interesting. To me, this is the least likely of any of these shapes that we've seen so far to be a UFO. But I mean, hell, what do I know?
What about that Missouri thing or Kansas City, Missouri thing that supposedly cast a huge, shadow in the town because it was so huge? I'd never heard of that.
Yeah, yeah, that's certainly. Oh, I haven't either. And actually, this is the first time I've ever heard of it. So I think that is actually pretty interesting. Um, but again, we don't really know kind of what the circumstances were. We don't know how big the shadow was.
Yeah.
We're kind of going off a lot of it. People like assuming things. It could be something impressive, but this is one of those that doesn't seem to have a lot of evidence behind it so far, anyway.
All right. We'll continue here.
Finally, and of course, not every UFO sighting fits so conveniently into shape-sorted boxes. There are those that appear more abstract and misshapen to our eyes, with sightings again coming from a range of sources, including the military, NASA, and other space agencies, and the general public. One example hit the press in December 2020, with a leaked image from the U.S. Air Force seemingly showing an isolated, jagged object hovering above the clouds. The image was reportedly taken from the cockpit of an FA-18 fighter jet, somewhere over the Atlantic Ocean. Hidden as it was by cloud cover and by being suspended many miles away from land, this UFO might never have been spotted were it not for the chance encounter. Elsewhere, there's the infamous Black Knight satellite, captured by cameras on board the International Space Station. This takes the
Yep.
UFO action beyond even Earth's atmosphere and out into space. Although the debate continues as to whether the Black Knight is really a watching alien ship, or rather a lost thermo blanket from a previous ISS mission. More recently, and much closer to the ground, we've seen the Cosmics and Phantoms, widely reported across Ukraine. We took a closer look at these in another recent video, with Cosmics generally referring to UFOs that light up the sky, and Phantoms being those that are almost cloaked from view, operating under darkness. And of course, there's also the poster UFO of modern times in America, the Tic Tac-shaped something spotted flying at impossible speeds around 100 miles off the California coast in 2004. Otherwise known as the USS Nimitz encounter, it has become one of the most iconic cases in a new era of UFO study.
Yeah, and we've covered that before,
Yeah.
and I think that is still, even to this day, one of the most compelling, specifically because Arrow, the organization within the government that kind of monitors this stuff, try to come out with like these debunking things, even though the fact that we had like multiple eyewitnesses of pilots seeing this kind of stuff going on for days and days. Um, that's pretty compelling. The Tic Tac seemed like some sort of a drone type of an operation, and not necessarily human based, or it could be future humans. But I think is again still some of the best evidence that we've had. And I've loved to see any of these things. I wish I had seen some of these things. I know that some of the more modern thinking of is that it only shows itself to those who want to see in some way or are able to see. So there could be some psychic connection there. I've seen a lot of things online just sort of suggest that there's a psionic connection to it. So
I mean, anything's possible.
that's true. I just wish I had what it was. I would love to see these things. I don't know why it's hating on me.
Well, I think we established it already and also mentioned it in a previous video about how you tend to not experience even like, paranormal
Yeah.
phenomena. So you've got that negative aura, as the kids would say these days.
I mean, I bought shrooms once and I didn't get high. So what are you gonna do?
All right, let's finish things up here.
So what's your verdict on the current UFO state of play? Which UFO types do you find most compelling, most unnerving, or perhaps most unconvincing? Could there be another explanation for some of these sightings, or even for
Yes.
all of them? Or is the growing variety of images, films, and testimony proof enough that the tide on UFOs is now turning? According to reports, there is an official effort, at least in the United States, to destigmatize UFOs today. Whereas in the past, UFO claimants might have feared ridicule, there's work being done to remove any harmful or discouraging stereotypes. Under the mounting pressure of
Mm.
increasing case studies and apparent evidence, and perhaps especially in the years since the introduction of the internet and the easy sharing of information, it seems as though unidentified aerial phenomenon will be taken more seriously in the future. For now, while 2021's preliminary assessment UAP report was met with disappointment in some corners, given how little it revealed in just its 9 pages of write-up, America is waiting for more such reports going forward. And seeing as that report concluded that 143 of the 144 UFO cases it focused on remained unexplained, there is clearly
Mm.
still a lot of work to be done.
Hmm.
Yeah, that doesn't necessarily mean that, all 100% of those remaining reports are aliens, or UAPs, that have been confirmed. That, I still think that shows a lot of a lack of understanding of what we're looking at. And so, to me, if it was human based, I think we would find a way to see that. And so, the fact there's even that many of just that small report that they were talking about, and that kind of ties into the blue book.
Yeah.
If you were looking at this stuff for a long time, there's like a certain percentage that you just can't explain, and it doesn't matter what you do. It's like, well, it's either this or it's that. So, kind of got to go Occam's razor at some point. What's the most likely
Hmm.
explanation? If there's like you have to like bend over backwards to sort of suggest that it's human made, or it's just like idiots out there saying nonsense. That doesn't go right with logic.
I can, I definitely agree with what you said. And um, if I didn't believe to have experienced my own UFO sighting, like this again, this back in the early 80s, I would also be very skeptical of this. And and I know just for those folks who probably did not hear me talk about this in a previous episode, it happened. I was kind of going back from the Columbia Gorge. Nope, that's not right. The Gorge Amphitheater, and coming
Mm,
back to Portland, and it was like maybe 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, and
mhm.
I was on the passenger seat of a Jeep and laying down, and I could see lights in the sky. And I actually told, my buddy who was driving, I go, I'll go without, without crashing us to take a look and see what if you're seeing the same things. And it was the following day that when we were in Portland, that we're back in Portland, and I think it was something on the radio or on TV saying, that there was these mysterious lights that were seen in the skies, right around
Mm,
that area. And I'm like, yes, we were there, we saw it. So anyway,
that's awesome. Yeah. Yeah.
well, folks, if you enjoyed this content, please give it a like and share it across your socials to help get the word out about our show. If you hadn't already done so, please subscribe. And on YouTube, hit that notification bell to make sure you don't miss out on future episodes. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.